thanks again for coming on, man.
My pleasure.
It's great talking. I know that uh Golfer has a new album coming out.
Yeah.
But before we talk about that, the first thing, a little tip-off question I like to ask is I want to know what you're listening to right now.
Okay. Okay. So past couple days, the new like McGee album came out. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. It's like MK dot GEE. Do you know
Okay,
that
yeah, yeah.
record?
I've seen the artist before, but I haven't heard the record now.
It's super good. It's like is it like kind of short little pop songs with like
Hmm.
really weird production, kind of like an 80s influence. Like I think it's super good. And he's the guitar player for like Dijon, who I like a lot.
Oh,
So
hell yeah.
definitely recommend checking that out. That one's really good.
There's
Uh,
I feel like that band is in the same grouping as I don't know if you've ever listened to Full Body 2.
oh yeah, I mean I know a couple
Wild
of their
band,
songs. I'd have to check out a couple more,
for
but they
sure.
did a split with like Tagabout, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I listened to those tracks. I like those.
Yeah.
Um, what else? Let's see, like a lot of MJ Lenderman
Hmm.
these days. That was a big one for me
A
today.
fan favorite of the podcast for
Oh
sure.
hell yeah. Well, actually, that makes sense. Actually,
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, been big on that today. Um, do you know this band called Zulu? They're like a hardcore band from like I
From
think
way
they're from
back,
LA.
right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry?
They've been around for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They been listening to a lot of them today. They're a lot of fun.
Nice.
Let's see. Did you listen to the new Eric DOA album?
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's like some hyper pop kind of thing. He's like I don't even know if he's like over 20, but he like makes these like really like compressed pop songs that are a lot of fun. Like
I
that's been
try
sick.
with hyperpop. It depends. I can't do 100 gex. I just
Oh,
can't.
me neither. Me neither. It's like to each their own or whatever, and like they
Right.
they do a lot of things creatively, like production wise, but the songwriting is not for me. But
Yeah.
you might like Eric DOA. It's a little more like uh I think songwriting wise it makes a little bit more sense, in my opinion.
Cool. Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. What about
Nice.
you?
Oh God. Well, you mentioned MJ Lenderman. I've been obsessed with that single with Waxahachie. It's just been stuck
Yeah, I
in my
listened to
head
that like three
forever.
times a day.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That's going to be a huge album this year. I can tell, and honestly, great for MJ, for being a part of that because like
Yeah,
he's like 25 years old, and
it's
that's going to
crazy.
blow him up. I feel like that's going to be a huge album.
Yeah, her other one was incredible, I think during the
Yeah,
pandemic.
loved it. Yeah,
I love that record.
definitely. There's some really good stuff that came out last week. I'm trying to remember. Freako. I don't know if you've heard them. That album is incredible.
I think I listened to that's like the album covers like Red.
Uh-huh.
I listened to one of the tracks from it. It's kind of fuzzy, like
He's got a
I like
really like almost like a vocal fry to his voice. It's like young Conor
cool,
Oberst a little bit.
cool.
What else came out Friday that I was really liking? Oh, Middle Kids and
Okay,
Stanford Men. I've been really into those, but I know Laura Jane Grace had an album that came out. I haven't listened to that yet.
okay.
But
Neither have
yeah,
I.
there's releases are picking up right now.
Yeah,
And on that note, you have one coming out as well.
definitely. Yeah, comes out next week.
Yeah, man, that's exciting. And I've got the chance to take a listen to it, and it's really good. I've been really
Oh,
enjoying
thank
it.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's been about almost 4 years since the last album came out.
Yeah.
So I want to know, like, what do you feel has is the difference between then and now? Like, what has changed within the music between then and now, and I guess with you even individually.
Yeah, so a lot really like because in I think like different members of the band might have a different answer to this, but for me personally like as someone who I didn't start golfer, like I joined a couple years later.
Okay.
So it was a little like for me to start writing songs in that band, it was kind of always like being a little careful, tiptoeing because it's like they had their own style before,
Mhm.
and for this record, for me and Vince ended up having like doing a lot of the same thing too. He's the other guitar player who also writes the songs and we both kind of felt like, we're not going to pay any attention to what we used to sound like or what the previous things were. We're just going to write the song that we want to write right
Mhm.
now and not really worry about like the continuity sonically of the band. So in that, like you can hear maybe in the production, like a lot of acoustic guitar, a lot of like effects that we never used before, like auto tune, a lot of things like
Hmm.
that that we just wanted to like, incorporate the influences that we were listening to now. So that's kind of the big shift, like songwriting
Cool.
wise, making it a little bit more accessible, more production tricks, less like riff oriented.
Got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like that I definitely comes through a lot. I feel like, maybe previously you have been associated, Golfer has been associated as like math rock emo adjacent, whereas maybe a little less mathy in this album.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
yeah, and I think it definitely comes through, but that doesn't mean it's like, all bands go through evolutions of what they sound like, and I think you're just now getting to put your stamp on it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Cool. Um, and I guess as when you joined the band, did you feel like you had to do almost like you almost had to like impersonate to fit in the band, or did you immediately feel like you could start integrating some of your pieces?
Um, well, when I started, I think still the first record, Dog Bless, which is that was written like when I was there, those are still almost all Vince's songs.
Hmm.
So in terms of like the leads that I wrote, yeah, there is an element of like, yeah, making it fit with his thing. And impersonation is a funny word, like, but kind of, yeah, there is an
Yeah.
element of that where it was like, okay, I was replacing someone who was like a great musician and like you know, and like ha made his impact on the band in a certain way. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, well, I guess I'll kind of keep that in some ways. And part of that is also like a personal level of comfort with the other musicians that like as we play together a lot more and like develop that relationship, you kind of feel like, oh, we're on the same page about this in this other way. And those things came about naturally.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. Um, I'm looking forward to release day. I think that's going to be great. Um, what I have also come to learn is that you have quite a different day job as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
know, this podcast is all about, different worlds kind of coming together. Do you feel that, you know, I guess kind of if you want to explain a little bit about what your day job is and how those worlds feel like completely different worlds, do they ever kind of overlap in any way?
Yeah. So yeah, they overlap probably not as much as I'd like. So like my day job for a long time is like I just finished like doing a PhD in neuroscience. So I did a lot of like research on Alzheimer's disease and yeah, like being in the lab most of the time, being around scientists, going to
Hmm.
conferences and stuff like that, like writing papers and analyzing data, which I love is like really fun. Like
Yeah.
the team we work with rocks. Like I've been really lucky. Like it's been fun. Uh, yeah, it's not something that I meet a lot of people who like that's what they do. Um, but it's funny too. Some like, if you go to like let's say among scientists, if you're hanging out with people, lots of people play music, right? And there's all
Yeah,
kinds of
yeah.
things to have in common, and many people play it at like different levels and stuff.
Hmm.
So that's always been really cool. Um, the it's a little less the other way around. If I'm like playing a show, it's more rare that I'll run into like
Someone
another
you
neuroscientist or
could speak
whatever.
science stuff about.
Yeah, though it does happen. It happens
Sure.
sometimes, but not too often.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And is it tough balancing both those things, or is it kind of fluctuate in timings?
It depends. Like, I think everyone in golfer has, a day job and
Yeah.
priorities and, like Vince is a family guy. And
Hmm.
so there's all those elements too that like I think we all juggle it in a different way. Um, everyone has their own day job that is, you know, may take up a lot of time. Or the other
Sure.
guys also play in more than one band. This is the only
Right.
band that I play in. So, everyone's juggling it.
For sure.
Yeah.
And on top of it, there's a third kind of niche category, and that's your basketball fan, which is where is where that
Yeah.
comes in. To be, in neuroscience, in a band, and you're into basketball, it's just like a lot of unique traits there.
Yeah. Well, the basketball one comes the easiest. It's
Yeah.
the
It's
yeah,
just, it's just what you like. I mean, so you're from Montreal, correct?
that's
But you're a
right.
Bucks fan.
Yeah. So like in Canada, we have the Raptors, right?
Right.
And during the 2019 run, I wasn't quite a basketball fan yet, and I wasn't even like a sports fan in general, but
Mhm.
like the whole country was going nuts, right? When that was happening, like the whole like I don't know when the last time prior to that the Raptors had had like a run that impressive. So I remember like even in Montreal, which is normally there's a huge rivalry between Montreal and Toronto, and we are kind of like constantly preying on Toronto to fail in every way, and no. But when that was happening, like they were streaming the Raptors games like in big fields in Montreal, and everyone was watching it, and like every bar. So I kind of got into it a little bit then, and that was a lot of fun. But then after that died down, I didn't follow it too much until the pandemic. Like I had some buddies just keep being like every time there's a basketball game, just come watch it. And I kind of got into it eventually. Like it kind of took people explaining like who the people were and the
Right.
drama and like
Hmm.
that kind of filled it all in and like then I got super into it.
That is a huge element that, some people have followed basketball their whole lives, and some people get kind of hooked by like the celebrity kind of drama aspect of it. And I like both things. I
Totally.
think there is a lot of that. What particularly drew you to the Bucks?
What drew me to the Bucks was Giannis mostly. He was just like so much fun to watch. His story was pretty amazing, like it's really compelling, and that was just like of the teams that were around at the time, that was just the one that excited me the most, and like it's just like it's kind of that heartwarming situation, and also the small market element, like
Uh-huh.
that's fun, It's less of this like huge historic franchise.
Right.
It felt in a way you're like rooting for the underdog, and in a way you're totally not because they're a great team and
Yeah,
have it
yeah.
both
And,
ways.
and it does seem like, around the time you were kind of getting into it is when they had their run a little bit, right?
It was
Like,
right after, unfortunately, right
okay,
after.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, dang.
Yeah.
But maybe they're primed for another.
We'll
They're
find
always
out. We'll
they're
see how
always in
I'm
it.
not super convinced right now, but we'll see what happens.
Um, yeah, okay, cool. So you didn't grow up kind of as a basketball person or a sports person in general?
No, like in here in Canada, like hockey's the big thing, right? I
Yeah,
played hockey growing up. That was always it. Um, but then after I was a teenager, I kind of like let go of that, and basketball just came in a little bit later in life. Yeah,
sure. Do you feel like Montreal, like what is, I guess, basketball scene like in Montreal?
it's tough to say. Like having not really like grown up in it or been a part of it. Like in elementary school, I remember like all the kids in my elementary school were super into it. Like over
Mhm.
like lunch break or recess, everyone would be playing 21 or just trying to shoot
Yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. So I guess I played at that age, but never like in any serious capacity. Um, but it's totally eclipsed by hockey. Like hockey's
yeah,
the
yeah.
thing that like on any given night, if you go to a bar, there's always a hockey game playing. You'd be lucky to find a place playing like
The
some
Lakers aren't just
basketball.
playing at a bar in
No,
Montreal, like
no, no. Let alone the Bucks, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
right. You got to get the NBA League Pass to catch up on
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
Um, do you feel though that, when it comes to Montreal, I guess Canada in large is everyone gathers around the Raptors for the most part?
Just about everyone I speak to who are basketball fans in Montreal or even around Canada, they're all Raptors fans. Even if they're not in Toronto, it's
Mhm.
just that kind of pride. Like, oh, we got to root for the Raptors. That's why, like, what do you mean you like the Bucks? Why don't you root
Yeah,
for the Raptors and whatever? And it's easy to turn it back at them of like, what do you mean?
right.
But
Yeah,
um, but yeah, more or less, like it's pretty unanimous. Most people are Raptors fans here.
cool. Yeah, and as far as Bucks go, how close have you been following this season?
Pretty close. It's
Okay.
been up and down.
Yeah.
I have some who knows what's gonna happen. It's been like, especially recently, kind of rocky.
It's going into the All-Star break was a little strange,
Oh
but
man, the loss to Memphis was a little rough.
I think Milwaukee's had some storylines for sure. I think the
Yeah,
whole thing with the Pacers has been very interesting.
100%. Those games, I mean, the famous ball situation. The game ball was like a huge drama thing.
Right.
And yeah, people have been acting out a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean I'm a big Tyrese Halliburton fan,
Oh,
and
me too.
I feel like yeah, it's kind of hard to not be.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, that whole situation was such a strange just to see them sprinting back. And I think it's interesting too because it there is a world where they play each other in the first round, the playoffs.
yeah.
That would be some good basketball.
I, if they weren't, what is it, like 4-1 this season, where the
Yeah,
Pacers won four times, I would really be hoping it for it, but we'll have to see.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Tyrese Halliburton fan too. He plays great, plays the right way, great energy, like
mhm,
a lot of fun to watch too.
for sure. And I know you said you didn't get to watch much of the All-Star weekend, but he was around. Halliburton was out around throughout. He did the skills challenge, he did the 3-point contest, but your guy Damian Lillard won the 3-point contest.
That's what we like to see.
And then he also hit some ridiculous half court shots, which just in the All-Star game for absolutely no reason.
I got to check
Um,
that out. Those are always fun to
yeah,
watch.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the All-Star game is a little. I think most people are feeling that All-Star weekend in general needs to be fixed a little bit because it's like dunk contest has been a little, you get like one good one every 4 years, 5 years,
Yeah.
and then no one is trying in the All-Star game. It's just like Damian Lillard hitting half court shots for no reason.
Yeah, like it's not like it's kind of just like a showboat situation, and it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like there's any stakes for anyone, right? So they're kind of just like,
It's
yeah,
almost like it's like a sketch comedy show where like you get little bits happening throughout. Like there was Jokic and Luca were just passing the ball back and
I
forth to
saw
each
that on
other.
YouTube today of like just I think they just didn't dribble the whole time, right? Like,
It's like people have like little bits. Like it's
yeah,
just it's so strange. But
yeah.
I question I have for you, and maybe this is a tough one, but if you were to fix All-Star Weekend, what is one thing you would like to see them do?
Okay. That's a tough question. I think there has to be a way for like the players to care about winning the game,
Hmm.
like having them play in a serious way. Because like back in the day, it was like a really competitive thing, right? To be
Yeah,
like All-Star MVP, that was a huge deal. To beat the opponent was a really big deal. So there has to be a way to like instill that edge, that competitiveness. I don't know whether that means like putting something financial on the line.
hmm,
I don't know what the way to do that. I mean, that's what they did with the in season, right?
that's right.
I don't know if that's the answer, but there has to be some way to make it not just a shoot around kind
Yeah.
of bit situation, right?
Yeah, I mean the financial thing is interesting because like it works more for the in season because you got bench players who like that's a lot of money to them.
True.
Whereas if you're in the All-Star game, I'm willing to
Oh,
bet you're
that's
making
true.
decent money.
Yeah, there's no way you're gonna be, like the amount of money you'd have to offer would be nuts, right?
Yeah, but I did see something from Hassan Whiteside that he was talking about. Um, they should make home court advantage in the finals based on the winner of the game, which is what MLB does.
Okay.
Um, people in MLB don't necessarily love it. Um,
Right.
it's interesting. I can see, but that could bring out a competitive edge. But also,
Yeah.
I could see, people have made arguments. Well, like, so the eighth seed who has no all stars, if they somehow make the finals, they didn't really earn that home court
Yeah.
advantage. But you got to do
Yeah.
something, right?
I wasn't around, or watching basketball back in the days when it was this really big competitive thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know what it was that motivated people then.
Hmm. Yeah.
You'd have to find it.
Kobe was on the record saying, back in the day, it was a point of pride that to go at the best players in the league
Yeah.
and not it was like basically he said it was like the most competitive pickup game
Yeah.
that you can have, and
Yeah.
it was just like the the thrill of like I want to be the best of the best, like it's primed to be focused on like the best of the best players playing together right now. Like this should
Yeah.
be amazing, not just
Yeah.
chucking up half court shots or doing strange passes and no defense whatsoever. I don't
That's
know
the
if
other
people
thing.
don't
I
want to
saw
get
the
hurt.
score was what, like almost 400 points scored or something insane like that. Like I saw that number and I was just like, oh man, like I don't know.
It's just like, you might as well just watch a practice at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It might speak a little bit about what fans value in terms of stars because it's all offensive stars that they're getting, right? Like
right.
so this kind of crazy scoring situations, no one's defending, right? But there's
Yeah.
also no
Yeah.
one there is taking pride in their defense necessarily.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a tough question, something to think about.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe that home court advantage is the thing, but it's something to figure out. I think as far as the 3-point contest is clearly the showstopper in that
Yeah,
right now. And I feel like
yeah,
they need to move that to the end of the night because
yeah,
I thought the Steph versus Sabrina thing was very cool to
that
integrate the
was cool.
WNBA.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean that was
so
great for her. She
yeah,
rocked.
she was awesome. She had just as many as the winner of the regular 3-point contest. So
Exactly.
um, yeah, I'm into the WNBA. I'm hoping it grows more, and I think doing stuff like this is great for both leagues.
I think so too.
Um, but yeah, All Star weekend's over. We're heading into the second half of the season. How are you feeling about your Bucks going into the second half?
Like obviously not great. It's been like the writing's kind of on the wall if there's, some troubles going on. I do like even when they were winning games, they weren't winning them in the right way. You felt
Hmm.
like when you're watching it, like you would think that this duo of like Dame and Giannis would be so much better than it is.
Yeah,
Um, so that's like I don't want to say like disappointing or whatever, but it's been a little surprising of you're like kind of waiting for that to click and it just like isn't necessarily clicking and you're kind of wondering, okay, what's the deal?
it's
Um,
there, but it's you obviously can't have both players as the dominant players they were running their team doing the same thing together.
yeah,
It's just a little different, but they do play. I think they just still do play well together.
I think so too, but I think like maybe my expectations were unrealistic or everyone's expectations were unrealistic, but I just thought like their skill set and the synergy would be a little more like evident than maybe it has in terms of like running pick and rolls and like
Sure.
so on. Maybe
Yeah.
there's more time for that to manifest itself. I like Pat Bev on the Bucks though. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
I think he brings like kind of what they need right now.
I think it's funny, especially with I feel like this always happens where there's a player he would talk shit to or talk shit about, and now he's on the same team with them.
Yeah. I mean, he's someone who's not afraid to talk shit or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I think like
I like
these
the brief
guys,
stint on the Bulls when he was on there. I
there you
think
go.
people like him when he's on the team.
For sure.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that you want on your team and you don't want to play against, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, so I
For
like that
sure.
for them.
And then, the Bucks have also had some interesting stuff with their head coaching situation.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
It's been it's been for normally like a pretty drama-free team. This has been a
Hmm.
pretty drama-oriented season.
It really has.
Yeah, which like, you never want to see someone lose their job, right? Like that's terrible.
Hmm.
Although he's still gonna get paid for,
Right.
you know,
It
it's
didn't
not
feel like it was fire worthy, but it seems like it was a Giannis led decision.
yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying. Obviously we don't know, right? We're
Right.
not privy to everything, but from what I read and heard, it's like there's I think like a lot of dissatisfaction within the
Hmm.
team in the locker room that kind of led to it. And like we were saying a second ago, like they were winning, but they were winning, like by 4 points against the Pistons. Like they should have been better
Yeah.
than that, right?
True.
And now they're worse than that. But like, who knows if that needs more time? We'll find out.
Well, maybe Doc Rivers is the answer that you guys needed. I'm not sold on that, but
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, me neither. But it's also a question of like, what were the other options, right? At that
Yeah.
time, I don't know.
For a midseason, yeah. I mean, they feel like there's still time to rein it in.
Yeah,
You're pretty much almost guaranteed to make the playoffs. So it's like, make the decision now, get that chemistry
yeah,
going before playoffs start.
yeah. Yeah.
We'll see.
So
I
we'll
mean,
see.
yeah, I'm I'm a Bulls fan, but I'm are we gonna make the plan? Maybe, probably not. But either way, I don't see us meeting in the playoffs.
Yeah. How do you feel about what the Bulls are doing these days?
I feel like a broken record sometimes, but it's purgatory.
Yeah.
They're good. They're like so fun to watch one night, and then they're
Yeah.
awful for a couple, and it's that, but like magnify it to like a season length where it's like, or like season to season where it's like this is just a constant ebb and flow of like
Yeah.
mediocrity that will never get you anywhere. We're not
That's the problem,
terrible.
right? Like that's the thing. They're not a bad
Yeah,
team, but that's the thing. They're not tanking and they're not gonna set it up. It's tough. It would be
yeah,
tough, I'd imagine, huh?
yeah, definitely. And I talked with last week I had Dave Artley from the War on Drugs, and it was really
Nice.
great talking because he is a I share this with him. He's a big fan of tanking and of there is a love of like watching a bad team and like going to a cheap game and then
For
like seeing
sure.
them grow a little bit. And I think um you become invested more when you see them go through the bad and you come back.
Yeah, I mean, it makes the years when they do later play well so much more rewarding
Right.
because you're like, oh, I was watching these guys when they were, really struggling, and it's also it sets your own expectations differently, right? Like you
Yeah,
know you're not going there to watch your team win. You're going to see what these young guys are going to do, which is fun.
sure. Um a question I have is, do you play any basketball?
Not much. There's like this court not too far from my apartment in the summer where I'll go at night and just go
Hmm.
shoot around and like get some buddies together and just like shoot and hang out, but never played like a lot of organized basketball. Maybe in the future.
Yeah,
My
nice.
cousin's really good and trying to get her to teach me a bunch and like everything, but yeah, we'll see. What about you?
Uh, it's about to pick up again. Through my office, they do like a work league, and sometimes I do a random pickup game, but it's been a little bit, so I'm happy to get back into it. But it's always been I've always wanted to do like an indie basketball like tournament with like,
It'd be so much fun.
so we gotta get you in fighting shape and get you a team, a golfer
We'll
team for the
do it.
tournament.
You tell me, I'll start doing my shooting drills,
There we
I'll set up
go.
the pylons and do some crazy stuff.
um and yeah, I mean, dude, when you come through Chicago, whenever that is, you got to get you on a half court session.
I'd love that. Yeah, we'd all
Yeah.
love that. Like we like love Chicago and our band like makes a lot of sense for that city.
Hmm.
But as Canadians, like touring the States is really cost prohibitive because we have to get
That's what
work
I hear,
visas. And so hopefully sooner than later, but we'll
yeah,
see when that's gonna be.
for sure. um well, the one thing I did bring up when I talked to you before is there's like a little game we do, and I kind of alternate whether it's one or the other. But for this, I'd like to hear you build a band of NBA players and see what you come up with. Let's see what instrument they're playing,
Cool.
what's it sound like. Let's get the big picture.
Cool. So here's what I'm going with. I'm going with Jimmy Butler Country Band is what I'm
Okay,
doing. Because I don't know if you know, he's like a big country guy and he's gonna put out a
totally.
country record. Like, so I'm filling in the band with NBA players is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we got Jimmy Butler lead vocals and guitar.
Cool.
Um, I feel like for bass, we got to get Dennis Rodman on there. I
He
think
brings a little edge.
he brings some edge, but also he's, you can count on him, get you 19 rebounds or
Uh-huh.
whatever. I think
Yeah, yeah.
that's gonna be
That's
important. So I
still
got
it's sometimes I'll just go on like basketball reference and I'll look up like a player and like Rodman averaging 19 rebounds a game is insane.
It's the most crazy number like
it,
imaginable.
you have to double take. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy's a legend. And also he has like lead singer energy in a way because he's really
Hmm.
out there, but he also has bassist energy, I feel like.
For sure.
Um, so yeah, so I got him locked on the bass. I feel like for drums, I go with like Shaquille O'Neal, I think. He's
On the drums, yeah, he's got the power to it a little bit, but I feel
he's got
like
the power to it. He's like a DJ, so he's got that
yeah,
rhythmic,
true.
you know. That's what I'm feeling there. For lead guitar, I'd bring in Chris Bosch, who
Nice.
is a guitar player. So I
Does he
gotta,
actually play guitar?
yeah, he
Oh,
does.
I
He
didn't know
does.
that.
Um, I don't know if he played any other instruments also, but yeah, he's a guitar player.
Oh, nice.
I feel like for what else do we need? We need like a piano player. So I get like that's like a little more technical, so maybe
Hmm.
like Steph Curry or like Dame Lillard or something like
Hmm.
that.
The
And
gentle touch on, yeah.
exactly like the gentle like the smooth touch. And then I think the last thing we need is like some pedal steel.
Uh-huh.
And I'd bring in Charles Barkley for that, only because that would just be
Nice.
like kind of funny to see. You just
Absolutely.
bring the vibes.
What's funny is like the first thing I thought of when you were saying pedal steel is I'm like, man, what like Steven Adams. Like
Oh, that's a good call too.
I just the hair, something about it, just seeing him sit down, like I feel like he would just get so focused.
Yeah, yeah, he could be like, "Oh, I'm gonna figure this out, mate,"
Yeah.
kind of.
Right. He's like, for the sake of the band, like I'll learn it. I don't know it, but I'll learn it.
That's it. If that's my role, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, totally. Cool,
Yeah.
man. This is actually not the first Jimmy Butler country band I've heard.
No
I mean,
way.
it does seem like a natural fit, so I get it.
Yeah. I'm
Very
uh, I'm
cool.
excited to hear his record. I don't know what it's gonna sound like,
Yeah,
but
that'll be very. I want to assume that what's his name? Mason Ramsey is going to have a feature on it. Was that little
who's
kid?
Mason Ramsey?
He was that kid who did like the he was like literally like 12 years old doing a country song about
Oh,
like
the Yodel kid?
yes.
Yeah.
I feel like he's
Oh,
gonna
they
have a
gotta get
feature
him on
on
there for sure.
it. That'll be interesting to hear for sure. Do you have a name? I don't know for the band.
I don't know. It'd be like I feel like it's gotta be Jimmy Butler and the something.
Right.
Jimmy Butler and the boards, Jimmy Butler and the something like that.
I feel like, what aside from like the Steph kind of piano aspect, it's Jimmy surrounded by a bunch of bigs. I feel
Yeah.
like there's something about that. It's like, yeah, it's
I
like,
mean, that could be Jimmy Butler and the Bigs kind
there you
of thing.
go. That's good. That's got country written all over it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Jimmy,
I
if you're
love
listening
it.
to this, feel free. Feel free to take that.
Sipping coffee and playing country tunes.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah.
uh cool, man. Yeah, I dig it. So yeah, that's kind of what I got. I mean, as in terms of Gopher, are you guys, I know you mentioned touring's tough. Are you planning any sort of tour for the album when it drops?
We have a bunch of shows in Canada
Mm-hmm.
booked for now, and then unfortunately nothing for the States for now, nothing to plug. Like
For
we're
sure.
probably just gonna yeah, release the record, play some shows around here, and then we're recording like a bunch more singles to just keep putting music out. That's kind of like our big what we love doing is like writing and recording.
For sure.
So lots of
Cool.
that is the near future.
And the album is out February 23rd,
28th.
28th. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, keep an eye out if whoever's listening, make sure you check it out. And dude, thank you for coming on and talking basketball. It's been great talking.
Hey, it was my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.